Good morning or afternoon, amazing agents from across the country. Today is Thursday, June 14th, and this is Mastermind call number 181. Can't believe we're coming up on 200. Thank you, everybody. We get a great turnout, as always. I have a couple things I wanted to mention before I turn it over to my partners. We're talking to a couple companies out there about, an affiliate business relationship. If any of you are members or familiar or have experiences with either Club Wealth or Bigger Pockets, would you send me an email, jim@alltheleads.com? And if you have good experience with us and you'd be willing to share it with one of those groups, we appreciate it. Again, just send me an email, jim@alltheleads.com. The next thing I kind of wanted to announce, we very much appreciate all of you that are willing to come on these calls and share your wins. I know we all know that it inspires the other 150 people on here to keep going until they get the same results. So we're going to try something new this week. We're going to roll out a new program that we call Win of the Week. So no pressure. We don't want you guys to make anything up, but anybody who's got a good win, the best win on this call every week, we'll kind of all vote, and we're going to give you either a free month of historical leads in your market or something of equivalent value. So we figure that'll be a win for the people on the call. It'll be a win for you guys, too, if you're willing to share with us. And that is it. Just a little bit of a teaser. The first Wednesday in July, we are planning to pick up our interview or Ask an Expert series, and we are planning on having a attorney who specializes in probate come on the call, and hopefully we're going to get one that is actually the administrator of the estate. So if you guys have any attorney-related questions, start writing them down now, and that'll be coming up in a couple weeks. And that's all the news that I have. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
No, not really. We're just moving and grooving. I will also, I guess there is one thing. Be aware that sometime during the month of July, we will be physically locating all of our home office team. We're unfortunately having to buy a new building, and I say that with tongue in cheek. Our business has grown. We're doing well. We've added a lot of people, and if you ask Jim, we already have over 100 people on our staff. But in reality, we're now approaching the mid-20s, and we don't have enough room for anybody to sit. So we're anxiously moving forward to do that. We've got people sitting around the conference room table that we thought would be the place that we'll have all our meetings, and right now that's become a sitting place for new employees until we find a place for them. So we'll be moving in July. Thank you for being with us as we grow, and we continue to add people to do a better job to support you.
All right, well said. Chad, anything you'd like to share from the training perspective?
June Probate Mastery is scheduled. The emails went out this morning, so it's this coming Monday, June 18th. It's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, and they will run from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, 4:30, depending on how interactive the group is. So if you want to learn more about Probate Mastery, you can go to Education and Training, and there's a full course outline and a summary video. And if you have any questions, just let us know. All the sessions are video recorded and emailed immediately following. So that's coming up this week.
Excellent. I always feel compelled to add that if you there's nothing you don't have to take Probate Mastery to get started. However, when we look at the numbers, our most successful agents that do the best and stay around the longest do take that course within the first month to 3 months of being with us. It gives you a lot of extra knowledge, which translates into confidence, which it definitely helps you get better results. And also, if you've ever taken Mastery before, you're an alumni, you can retake it as many times as you want. Chad is constantly tweaking and improving the program. So if you took it a year ago and you want to jump back in for a second or third time, just let him know. And it's, there's no charge for repeat offenders, for people to keep coming back. Tom, anything you want to share with the group?
Oh, my normal. I just want to tell everybody that we're here to help you. If you need anything, you can always get in touch with us. Just send an email to support@alltheleads.com, or if you're in your account area under support, there's a contact us area. Just be specific on what you're looking for. We track all those items and make sure someone gets back to you on a timely basis. That's it.
Perfect. And of course, I always add to that, now that we have almost 100 employees, according to Tim, he tends to exaggerate, but we do have about 25 people that work with us. And everybody, we have very much specialists, I mean, we do have general support people, but the best way to get the quickest help with whatever you need is just send an email to support@alltheleads and just be real specific about what you need help with. Everybody reads that, and generally the appropriate person will jump right back on the phone with you, rather than having to refer your call to the person best able to handle it. If you're just real specific in your email to support@alltheleads, best way to get the quickest help that you need. So, all right, well, we have 3 people in the queue. We got room for a bunch more, so please don't be shy. Questions, comments. We'll even take complaints, although we hardly ever get any, fortunately. But wins we love, and remember, starting right now, the win of the week is going to get some free historical leads in their county, and we'll decide at the end of the call which one that was. So again, hit *6 and hit 1 if you would like to actively participate, and let's go to the first person in the queue, phone number ending in 1800. You're up first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Erickson. I am an official newbie. I'm here in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida, and just had a couple of questions. So we're getting ready to do the first mailing, and just had really relative to 3 things. Does the color of the envelope matter? Does it get more opens? I don't know if anyone's ever tried that. Second question is customizing the letter to individual names. Any best practice? Is better to do, not to do, doesn't really matter. And the third item is inserting a flyer about probate more effective, or does it result in any better results? So those are sort of our 3 categories of question marks.
Great.
So I have tested envelopes extensively to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. I prefer pastels. I always use a greeting card envelope, and I've found I've measured a slightly higher response rate with pastels.
Okay.
So typically use like a cream or a pastel blue or pastel yellow. Stay away from bright colors if you're doing your own mail. Do not use bright colors, because I sent an 1,100-piece mailer once, and they all either were lost or came back. It was on like a blaze orange envelope near Halloween. The next part of your question was about personalizing merge fields. Highly recommend that. I wouldn't don't overdo it. Some people want to merge in the deceased last known address, assuming that's the subject property, and that can bite you in the butt when it's not. So I would recommend mail merge the personal representative's first name. Hi Lisa, this is Chad. I noticed that you're da-da-da-da-da. That seems to be effective. Sometimes in some of the letters you have regarding the estate of, and you can use that as a merge field. So you could say, hi, merge first name Lisa. My name is Chad. I'm reaching out to you about deceased first name last name, the estate of deceased first name last name. And that can show that you've actually done your research, and they can better understand why you're reaching out. The third part of your question, we have a lot of people try a lot of different things. I personally haven't done anything with flyers because I felt like my letter and my website was the combination I wanted them to look at. I would say that if you don't have a website, then a flyer is a really good additional piece to your letter. If you do have a website, I think that's a better, it's a better extension of your letter, because there's more information and they can spend more time looking at you. So I would, one thing I tell everybody on mail questions, don't be afraid to test. Jay Abraham says there's no such thing as a marketing budget, only a test budget. So you may split your list in half and send flyers to half one month and not the other half, and see how which group you have more conversations with. But I would say, the first thing people want to know, like on the phone or in the mail, is who is this person? How did they get my information? What do they want? How can they help me? So anything you can include, whether it's a letter, a flyer, or the PS. What I always did was put my domain in the PS line. So PS, if you're not ready to talk yet, please go to probate.com. So you test it and let us know how it worked out for you. We do have a ton of people that put a flyer in every letter, though.
Does that help?
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Perfect.
Okay, please come back on future calls. Let us know how you're doing.
Will do.
All right, great. We only have 2 more in the queue, guys. Don't make me beg. We need *6 and hit 1, and we need a great win so we can give away the Win of the Week prize. There we go. We got 1 more. Thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 3611. You're up next.
Thank you very much. My name's Kevin. I'm fairly new. My first set of leads were April leads, and wish I could tell you I've called them all. It's been tough. I've called probably about 3/4 of April's, and have been, quote, too busy, close quote, to call May's. And but I've got a couple of questions. I think I've got something that could be considered a candidate for the Win of the Week.
Good.
I met with a guy about 3 or 4 weeks ago who I did call. He called me back, and PR met with him. He has a commercial property that who he's representing. His wife is actually one of the heirs. He called me a couple days ago, liked me, and we listed a $749,000 commercial property yesterday.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, I would say that's a good win. So you're starting with the cheap stuff. Your first probate listing is almost $1 million or $750,000. That's great.
And it's a call in, which is, they call me back. I didn't get a hold of anybody. It's just, what I've learned in all this is that when I first started, I was in the insurance investment world for years, and it was pretty uncomfortable when I first started calling. But once I made more and more calls, you get more comfortable. I know Chad says you got to be comfortable, just have a conversation. But it's still new, right? It's still challenging, and I'm getting better a little bit each week, but it's pretty challenging. Here's my question. I had my first residential meeting yesterday with some leads with a gal, and what I realized in the meeting is I didn't know how to handle a situation. She wants to sell her property. So what do you want to do? You want to sell it? And I thought I could have a conversation around, do you want a quick close cash sale? Do you want us to list it? To get a little higher price for the property. It's in kind of an interesting area of town that's kind of up and coming, but still quite a bit of rough stuff around it. And she said, yeah, both would be great. And I said, well, what do you want? And what I've caught myself doing was trying to figure out what I thought. I've got a couple of cash investors that I could, bring into the play here. But I tried to guess kind of what they would pay, and I also tried to guess what I thought comps would generate if we listed it. So, Chad, my question is, how do you deal with that? How do you gauge them, and how do you try to guide them down the most appropriate path there?
So I use timing and motivation. And one of the first questions I ask is, in a perfect way, if you're in control of everything and you could wave a wand, what day would you be depositing the check in the estate's bank account? And then you work your way backwards from there. If they say like next week, then you probably have it's either an as is or a cash sale. If they say I don't really know, what do you think? That's kind of the ideal scenario, right? Because they're already following your leadership. And if they say things like, well, you know what? Until we get $1 million, that damn thing can sit on the market. And unfortunately, those exist. There's one right outside, right across on the opposite hilltop from my house. So I start with target date, and then from there ask questions about what got them to that date. So if their date is inside of 30 days, what's the motivation? Is it the fear of the unknown, like the fear of going through and cleaning out the house and thinking that people are going to beat them up on inspections? And you've got to uncover the motivation, like or not uncover, but I guess you've got to uncover the cause of that level of motivation. So is it money or is it time? and you can decide which path to go down. Usually in the first few minutes of the conversation. I mean, if they need cash right now and they want to close next week, you pretty much, depending on
that question.
The asset class. I mean, you can sell those. Like what I would do, like oftentimes the investors here are usually doing 14 to 30 day closings. I could beat them on MLS because I would list 10% under market as is, where is, roll it out like a commercial listing where I would call for offers the following Friday and refuse to review any of the offers. Well, what ended up happening is on about day 4, the momentum would pick up, and I would have buyer's agents literally falling all over themselves, sending me even though I hadn't reviewed their offer, they were replacing offers with higher offers because they got emotional, and they went back and got their clients emotional, and they drove the price. So the net result was we could sell a house as is, where is on MLS for about 14% over market just by playing the game. So you can still go a more conventional route, like through your license, in the same time frame that you can do a cash offer, depending on the asset and and the motivation and condition. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but I start with timing and motivation, and then try to get as much information on it as I can on what's driving that, and then it's pretty clear. Now, the other thing that I do is I take a net sheet. So I run 3 scenarios on almost every appointment. And you can change the header. It can be like cash as is, retail, or low, medium, high, suggested price. But you can run the 3 scenarios beside of each other, and it'll kind of show them an estimated net at the bottom. So if an investor would pay 80, I could sell it on MLS for 94. Or if we flip this thing, it's a $170,000 house because this is a gentrifying neighborhood, right? You can run those 3 scenarios, and then you have a visual tool for the conversation. So when you're sitting there, you can say, okay, listen, you told me you'd like to close before the 1st of July, so we don't have much time. That pretty much takes the retail scenario off the table. So we have an as-is and a cash sale. So tell me, Mr. Smith, what's more important? Is it the time or money? Because either way, I'm going to handle everything. So is time more important or is money more important? Okay. And they'll self-select. So you only have 3 options, and there may be a 4th. Like if you're doing creative financing, there may be a 4th option. But you kind of lay the options out in front of them, and they can look at that number. And if they balk and they say, well, no, I want that number. I want the 170. Okay, well, based on our conversations, you said you needed to have this done by July 1st. To do the retail price, it's probably going to be more like October 1st. So has something changed in the last 5 minutes, or is it just that number just looks attractive? Okay, that's what I thought. So let's talk about the as-is and cash.
Yeah, what I didn't do is go down the path of, the full retail. I didn't go down that path because she said she wanted to sell it, but I guess it's still an option. I can maybe call her back and say, hey, if, she knows, she said, hey, this house in a couple of years is probably worth twice what it's worth today. So that is an option. Obviously, I can call her back and say, hey, if we want to put some money in it and flip it, we can do that. So,
do you know if the estate has money, cash?
No. The deal is it's already actually been settled and it's in her name, so it's already been transferred out basically to her. So I don't know the answer to that question. I would need to ask if she had the cash, obviously, some reserves to do that.
Do you have any private money lenders or investors that you
yes.
close relation?
Well, private money, yeah, I do actually. I do have one.
I would call them first, and I would say, listen, this is premature. I'm about to have a conversation with somebody. There's a potential that we may be able to partner with an estate, or you may be able to just write a mezzanine loan, and to flip this house. Are you interested if I can get you 2 points and 10%? The answer is probably going to be yes. Well, let me ask this: is the asset free and clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is really simple then. So you can give them a first, and get them a couple points and 10% with a no prepayment, and then go to her and say, listen, I was really kind of challenging myself to show you all the options I could after we spoke, and if you've got 10 minutes, I want to just kind of run a few things by you. Or you might wait. I suggest getting face-to-face to have this conversation. But if you know you've got the capital on deck, either for you to use or for her to use, then that just opens up a whole new world of possibilities for her, because she's already transferred the asset into her name, which means all of the proceeds would be hers. So depending on how you structure the deal, you can bring the capital to the table and partner and do a 50-50 profit share, or she can bring the capital to the table, use your contractors, you get a higher price listing, and, you know, any way you slice it, everybody wins if you renovate a house.
I have a hero for life on that scenario.
Yeah. And if you need help putting it together, you can give me a call the main number and hit 2004, and I can help you with it. But you're thinking in the right direction for sure.
Okay. Another simple question, but and I'm embarrassed I don't know the answer to this question, but typically what's the standard MO when you bring in an investor? Do you still charge the full 6%, whatever you're charging your market charges? What do you typically do in that scenario?
Yeah, what I typically do is list the house at 6% or a base rate. So, like, if it's under $100,000, I might do a flat $3,000 for anything under $100,000. But I typically do a 6% listing, and then when I give the offer, the purchase agreement to the buyer to sign, the first page is an unrepresented party addendum. So the buyer, the seller, and the agent all sign saying there is no agency relationship exists. This is an unrepresented party. So then that leaves the whole 6% brokerage commission goes to, you know, the one side that's representing. So that's how I've done all mine. That's just you know, that's the cleanest way to do it. I don't believe in dual agency. Okay,
good. I just want to verify. And lastly, let me just kind of a shout out to Alyssa on your staff. I reached out, I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, hey, I might be interested in doing a brochure for attorneys. And I said, yeah, let me think about it. And she kind of was really good to work with. And all of a sudden, about a week or two later, I get a sample brochure in my inbox. She had gone to my website, grabbed a lot of the dialogue from my website, and it was so good. All I had to do was a couple of tweaks, and I got my brochures yesterday. So just I don't know how often you guys get compliments on your staff, but I'll let you know. Alyssa is amazing. So, all right.
Thank you for that. We'll let her know.
Appreciate all you guys' help. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I'd say right now you're definitely in first place for the win of the week, and thank you so much for sharing.
Well,
you had something else, Chet?
Yeah. I want to, before you let him go, I want to go back to your success story and learn a little bit more about that, because it's not often that people seize the opportunity to list commercial assets. The last one I can remember was almost a year ago that we had on this call, but it happens. Like, we hear about it all the time. So they called you off of they were returning a phone call, right, Kevin?
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm. From I mailed him, did the first mailer, called, and then he called me back. So. Okay.
And did your letter mention that you have commercial property services?
No, not at all. I picked up. I do probably 20% of my business is commercial. So thankfully, I have some not huge skill set, but a little bit of ability there. And so when he told me about the property, I immediately was able to say, hey, gosh, I do commercial work and would love to help you. And we met at an IHOP or an IHOB. I'm not sure what they are. And yeah, I just listened, and he shared a lot, and we just made a great connection. And he called me back and said, let's list it. So we have great marketing. We have a really great marketing department. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep walking on you.
That's okay. We have a great marketing department, and we've got I recommended drone footage because it's kind of off the highway a little bit. So he liked some of those ideas, and just was real with him on not overpricing it. Telling him what I thought it would go for, and all that paid off. So what were you going to ask, Chad?
What's the asset class? What is it?
It's commercial. It's agricultural right now, but it's surrounded by commercial general. Is that what you're asking? It's vacant land.
So it's just vacant land. It's an out parcel. Okay. And what do they plan to do with the proceeds?
There are 3 heirs, his wife, and then the 2 other heirs. He thinks the other 2 heirs, one of them for sure will probably turn that into drugs pretty quickly, but that's a side story. That's another story. Yeah, they're just, and in fact, guess what? I used the chat yesterday when we met. I said, so are you guys thinking about doing something different? Because they've lived at their home that they live in, the PR and his wife, who's the heir, for 30 years. And he said, my wife's been thinking about that. And, so kind of went down that path. And yeah, I was already kind of ahead of the game. And they may want to list that house and help buy something once everything's settled. So when everything's sold.
Yeah, I mean,
is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got $250,000 in everyone's pocket when this is done.
Yep.
So those, I mean, I would either turn them into private money lenders for my investors, get them invested in more traditional vehicles with my registered investment advisor, or I would help them start building a rental portfolio or looking for a vacation home.
Okay.
Because I mean, one thing's for sure: if you leave $250,000 sitting with most people, it'll be gone in 12 months or less. But if they trust you, and they're responding to your leadership, you can. I mean, hell, what could you do if that was your money? You even if they're writing mortgages, if they're writing mortgages at 10%, you'll double their money.
7 years.
In about 7.2 years. So you know the rule of 72, don't you?
Dude, my background is I used to be an RIA and an investment insurance guy for about 20 years. So yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so I mean, you got the skill set. Don't let them piss this money away.
Okay. All right. That's a great challenge. I'll take that to heart, and as soon as obviously start going down that path soon. So I got to get on the market first. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks so much for sharing.
That's really great input. You bet.
Great story. Thank you so much, Kevin. We have 3 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 7900.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, ma'am. We can hear you. You're up.
Okay, hi. I am calling. I've been a member for a while, and I do the mail out, and I've gotten lots of probates. I consider this a huge source. I'm in Texas, and it's a huge source for my business. But I called in a couple of months ago and asked a question and was told about the calls that you guys do. Do you now have inside sales agents who will make phone calls for us? Is that
we
you
do.
offer that service? Can you tell me more about that?
Sure, and I'm going to let Chad explain it. I just was going to say that we try to listen to your needs. And is this Lindsay? Is that your name?
No, this is Soccer.
Oh, Soccer.
Austin,
Okay, your phone number says Lindsay. That's the call. About
That's
4 months
bad.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. About 4 or 5 months ago, we got frustrated with the number of agents that were quitting because they wouldn't pick up the phone. So we said, hey, this is not acceptable. So we went out and found a solution to that. And I'll let Chad share the details with you.
Yeah, so we'll call the personal representatives. We call each number, or each of the numbers we give you, which is up to 4. We leave a voicemail unless you tell us not to, and it's $2.50 per lead, not per call. And if you want us to do attorney calls, it's $7.50 per attorney call. Typically, those are much smaller lists, and you only run the campaign a time or two, for the attorneys because they show up month after month. And it's a 6-day cycle. So once you set the clock and tell us when you would like it to start. If we're doing your mail for you, it'll work in tandem. So we'll manage the timing, but if you're not, you'll set the clock. We'll start when you tell us to start. We'll call for up to 2 days. We'll leave the lines open for another 2 days. And then within the next 2 days, your CRM will be updated with all the opt-outs and notes and the results. During the campaign, if you get an appointment, then you will automatically be notified of your appointment, and the CRM will be updated in real time.
Wow.
And if you want to order, you just jump to Mailbox Motivator in the menu, and order marketing campaign, and you can order letters, calls, or letters and calls.
Okay. Order marketing campaign. Okay, and so letters and calls or letters. Okay, cool.
And
awesome.
Soccer, you said
you've been
getting great results. Has it been without making any calls, or you just been sporadic on your calls?
I've made calls, but it hasn't been, every single month, every single number. But I've gotten lots of, my last 3 closings were probates. I have one, and I think the guy before me probably wins for the day for the best deal. But I have one where the guy was alive, and he's the father of a past client. He was alive. She called me to ask me, should she transfer the property into her name beforehand? I said no, because you're going to have to pay taxes on it and lose the homestead exemption and the over 65. And she said okay. So she left it there. He went to assisted living. We had the house under contract, and then he died. And so then we had to go through the whole process. But I saw her on Saturday. It sold. It closed. She has the money. Everything's great. But I do like Chad's information about, now that she has this money, what is she going to do with it? When she sold her last house, she bought a BMW. She needs something else besides a new car. She needs to buy some more real estate. So I'm going to talk to her about the money and do some private money lending with her. That's a wonderful idea. I really appreciate that.
Excellent. Soccer, you're in Texas, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Wanted to make sure I had the right Soccer. Yeah, you're our only Soccer, but just wanted to make sure.
Yes. Yes. I think we met at our Texas Association of Realtor conference about 2 years ago. In September, yeah, I'd never heard of you guys, and I was like, oh my God, somebody can do this. I don't have to try to find this information on my own. So yeah, it's really great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. We have 2 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 9686. You're up next.
Hey, good afternoon, fellows. I really appreciate the calls. I just want to give a shout out when I've gone through Chad's training and everything. It's great. So if people are thinking of sign up, I'd highly recommend it.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions on how to handle a couple situations.
Sure.
If I get my leads from another source that I sort of work for, and if it shows like it's pro se under attorney, which looks like it means they're handling itself legally. Is there anything different you do in that kind of situation? Or why
Great
would
question.
they do that?
Sure.
Yeah. What state are you in?
Illinois.
Okay. We find that as up to 20%, and well, it varies by area. Like in Virginia, hardly any have attorneys, but in a lot of areas, like about 80% of them will have attorneys, and about 20% or so will be pro se at the time of filing. In speaking with probate attorneys, what we've found is a lot of them end up picking up those pro se deals mid-process because they think, oh, we got this, it's no big deal, and then they don't know what they don't know, so they get in the thick of it and then need some help. Those can actually be really good ways to network with probate attorneys. So if you take those pro se deals and start picking up the phone and calling the attorneys and say, hey, listen, I pulled this. I know there's 20 possible referrals that I'd like to talk to you about this month. Would you have time to sit down with me? And you never know. They may be pulling the data on their own. They may have a paralegal or, whoever their researcher is at the courthouse may be doing it for the office. But in our experience, there is opportunity there. The other thing you can do, and this is something that I'm working on producing, I haven't done it yet. It's an idea that I gave one of our subscribers and just haven't finished yet. But if you sit down with a probate attorney and make a list of every single responsibility and activity that has to happen from start to finish, it's a pretty overwhelming list when you look at just how many lines it is. If you can get that all on one page or one page front and back, and then color code what the attorney is responsible for, what the personal representative is responsible for, and what the court is responsible for. So you have 3 colors. And when they see how big their responsibility is and what they could immediately delegate to an attorney, and that they can delegate most of their color and all those responsibilities to you, it's just a good visual tool for them to show them what they're about to get into. Because, studies show we retain about 20% of what we hear, right? And when you're in a stressful situation, that goes down closer to 10%. So these people are in a stressful situation, first time, they sit down with a probate clerk, they blow through all this in 30 minutes or so, and then they go home and they're on their own. So there's a good opportunity to step in and help them and turn that into a referral to help you build your attorney network, but also to help them realize what they're getting themselves into, and they'll see value in your service once they can see all the stuff that they're going to have to do on their own.
Okay. What about the same thing with if you run into a situation, if it's showing up as an intestate, how does that affect things? Positive, negative for us, or
it's usually neutral. Intestate just simply means there was no will, and about 55% of Americans right now do not have a will. So it's not. It doesn't change a whole lot. It changes. So if there's a will, the will will name the executor, and then the executor files probate, and the court approves them. If there is no will or it's intestate, then someone from the family steps up and they prove that they're an heir, and then the court will appoint them as an administrator. So the terminology is a little bit different, but the process is really the same. Like after the initial hearing, intestate is an administrator, testate is an executor, but they have the same responsibility and the same authority.
Okay. Do you do anything different if the admin is also showing up, let's say, as the spouse?
It just use more empathy and a softer touch. Like, certainly don't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, are you selling 123 Walnut Street? I got a real estate license," because that usually shuts people down pretty quick. So come into it with, listen, we reach out early because we know how hard this can be, especially for surviving spouses. But we also realize that they can create a real need that you might not have a plan for. So based on our experience with past clients, we take the risk of maybe some people misperceiving our service because we know it's important to talk to you sooner than later, so we can really help you through so you're not on your own. Okay.
The last thing is, you're saying about the winner of this call. I'm not involved in that situation, but what kind of leads are they? Are they older leads, and what do you consider as an older lead, or whatever term you use?
So we call them historical leads, something that's not in its current month. So like our June list would be current data. And okay. Jim, I don't know, are you going 1 month back or 3 months back?
Whatever we have that's available in the county, and if we don't have it available in that county, we could give you historical in an adjoining county. Like I said, we'll either give you a recent historical or something of equal value. And we talk about this all the time to our subscribers, that these leads season very well. We've had a number of agents that not too long ago, we had a guy that subscribed for a month and quit, and a year later he got a deal from a year-old lead, so he had his assistant call these year-old leads, and he got 3 more. So when you go back more than about 90 days, 60 to 90 days, probably most of them are going to be listed or sold, but the good thing is the ones that aren't, you've got absolutely no competition. Nobody is contacting them anymore, and they're going to really be ready to do something. So, but typically for the win of the week, we're going to give you the last available month of leads that you don't already have. Like for soccer, it'll be 2 years ago, so we'll have to work something else out with her. For Kevin, matter of fact, we'll talk about it at the end of the call, but we'll either give you the most recent month that you don't have or something of equal value if you do the win of the week. But to answer your question more deeply, yeah, historical leads are valuable, and really when you sign up or anytime if you're an existing subscriber, we can go back in most cases and give you older leads at a big discount. Usually we can do it for about $1 a piece.
And is that
Hey,
60
Jim.
or 90 days from date of death, or from when the probate was filed?
From the date it was filed. And Tim, you had a
Okay.
comment you wanted to add also.
Yeah, I'm just going to point out that we've had a number of people, because this has come up, interestingly enough, probably on the last 4 calls. We've been talking a good bit about historical, and you've made the most vital point that if you wait a while and do this, the low-hanging fruit may have been off the tree. Investors may have already visited with them, and now you're top of mind 6 to 9 months later after that probate has been filed, and they finally got around to potentially moving some of the old stuff out of the house and all that, and decided to go sell it. And being top of mind at that point is important. And what we've had since our last 3 or 4 calls, several people have called in and asked us to help them put together a separate letter specifically for older leads, and so we'll have that ready for you guys by this time next week. But if you want to do that and you want to go pop something out to your historical, our mailing department can handle it for you, help you put together a cool letter that will say exactly that I reached out to you several months ago when the probate was originally filed, and I'm sure you got bombarded by lots of people doing that, and I see that the property potentially is still there, there may still be property involved, and would love to reach out and talk to you. And at that point, you're the only one talking to them. So we're helping you do that, and we're putting a program together for you as well to do that.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you participating. We have 2 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 9723. You're up next.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Anthony, and I'm over out on the East Coast. I just started making these phone calls. I'm not experienced at all really making some cold calls, but they don't really bother me too much. The only problem is I'm trying to figure out a way. Being on the East Coast, it seems like it's a little bit harder to get that conversation started. So I'm having a little trouble with my opening line and the script, trying to get them to open up. And then I'm also having trouble figuring out how to go from there and to lead into, talking to them about their real estate without sounding like like a vulture.
So
okay.
have you attended or listened to any of our role play calls?
Well, like I said, I'm kind of just recently stumbled upon you guys. So last week, I heard a little bit about it, but I think it was pretty specific. So
okay. Well, everything that you're asking for is covered it with a lot of redundancy throughout these calls. So if you go into your subscriber portal and then the menu in the top, go to education.
Well, let me just kind of back up a little bit. Like I said, being new to this and just stumbled upon you guys, before I found you guys, I actually purchased the lead, some leads from another company. So I kind of wanted to go through those before I jumped on board with you guys. And,
so you're not a subscriber yet. He's not a subscriber yet.
I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not a
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a full subscriber yet. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
So I still make it publicly available. So if you go to Facebook and search the group All the Leads Mastermind, if you're not a member already, we'll let you in. Once you're in the left sidebar, there's a search this group bar, and just go there and type in role play. And that will bring up 31 archived calls. So there'll be a summary of everything we talked about on the call. And you can kind of, preview the hour of role playing by reading the bullet points. And like I said, we have 31, so there's probably it's about 21 hours worth of content where you can get what you're looking for.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. We have 1 more in the queue. Last up, unless somebody else jumps in, is phone number ending in 1660. You're up next.
Hey guys, it's Lucky again, Lucky Montoya in Ohio.
Hey, Lucky.
How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Good. Listen, I have been with y'all for 3 months now, and I kind of jumped in the middle of this. I think there's something going on with past leads, and I'm not sure. But just to give you an example, I had not had great success until this week, and it was I believe it's a 3-month-old lead. And I've been working, of course, you guys know I'm an auctioneer, so I've been working probate pretty much my whole career. I wanted to try to, in our area, working with the attorneys is extremely competitive. So it's hard to get yourself in the door in a lot of these probate attorneys, and it seems like we probably have maybe 10 to 15 that pretty much control the market in my county on attorneys. Well, they already all have their guy. So when I found you guys, I thought, okay, well, this is a way to get to the folks before the probate attorney, or at least be able to get to compete against some of the other agents. So I've been having you guys do my calls. I've also been having you guys send out my letters. By the way, that is probably, if you guys are worried about that, that is the cheapest way to do it. I've paid kids to put out letters, and any way you cut it up, you guys probably do the best and the cheapest. So if anybody's interested in that. But anyways, my comment is this is a 3-month-old lead I finally was able to convert. And, it's not a big property or anything, but the gentleman that we started out with, when they first made the appointment, I talked to him. He said, listen, the probate has not gone through. I'm still working with the attorney. He said, we'll get back to you. And I said, fine, work that end. I kept in touch with him. I sent out my second mailing. And like I said, I think we're 3 months old on this deal. And he finally called me back, and we went ahead and signed him up to have an auction for the property. So there's a good example on, historical leads.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Lucky. I know you it's good to hear a story like that, because I think sometimes people think, people come on and I took 5 listings my first month. It sounds unbelievable. We've had stories like that, but your situation is not uncommon. We have a phenomenal number of agents that'll try us for a month or two and then quit, and then 4 months later they come back because they start getting results from their original campaign. And I always try to tell people, this is, we don't require a contract, but give it 90 days. I mean, in the 5 years we've been doing this, I really can't think of a single example of anybody who's worked this consistently for a few months that hasn't gotten some results. It's the luck of the draw where you catch people. You weren't fortunate enough to have a booming start, but you stuck with it. And I mean, not if, but when you cash this commission check, I'm assuming that your ROI for the 3 months that you've invested is still going to be pretty good, right? Pretty good return.
Yeah, most definitely. And, I think I'm learning some things along the way, and I'm glad you said 90 days, because when I first hired on, it took me almost 90 days to join y'all, and I sat here and listened to you guys for about 3 months, and then I said, well, okay, you've committed this much, all right, now commit another 90 days, and that's what I went. But I also had it, because I've been in the business so long, I knew that it took a lot of these situations to get to where they're at, especially in our area with the attorneys seem to work really slow in our area. My whole deal was, okay, I was having a hard time getting in the door of these attorneys, and when I did, they had already had their guy or their lady, and they were like, no, we're happy with who we're dealing with. And so it was hard to get them to refer me. But now that I am getting to the executors before the attorneys saying, okay, well, this is who we prefer you to use, at least I'm competition. At least I can get in the door and say, well, okay, I appreciate this, but you don't have to hire that person. You can hire who you choose. And so that, to me, was the program's benefiting. And I've considered, using your calling for the attorneys, but I think around here, I guess this is the hot time of the year for this. It seems like everybody saves their probates until this time of the year to have their auctions or their sales, and it seems to really slow down in the winter. I don't know if there's statistics to that, but that's what it seems like in in my past. So I thought, okay, well, I'll give it 3 months. And the key to me was getting to those executors, before they were already referred off by an attorney. But, it's taken 3 months for me to get to this point.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming back and sharing. We really appreciate it. Chad, anything you want to add or comment on what like you said?
No, I mean, congratulations on having the right mindset. I mean, a lot of people do see quick results, but what you're experiencing now is the beginning of what should become strong momentum. Like over time, more and more of these people will respond when they're ready, not when you're ready. And you'll start getting come list me calls, and you won't even know which list it's from. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 months out. And I've seen it in my business and several other people I've coached. We see it in our ISA center. I mean, we're setting appointments as far back as 2 years. So just keep doing what you're doing. You got the right mindset, and you're going to help 3 to 5 of them out of every 100. And just know that they'll call you when they're ready. Just keep marketing. As far as the seasonality, that is something we've tracked. So obviously, I mean, typically death rates are not seasonal. Like it's pretty consistent throughout the year. However, between basically the months of November and December, we see an 18% decline in probate filings. And that's based on our own research of the counties that we were gathering. I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to quantify that. So because it's such an emotional thing, you see like an 18% decrease in November, December, but that usually comes flying back into the process in January, February. So you're going to see a decrease for a bit, but then it ends up equal. It works itself out because you get more in January and February than you had, in the previous months. But it's pretty consistent. I think the nature of your business, people have that perception that, you should only have an auction on the most beautiful day of the year when the weather's perfect and the lawn's perfectly cut, right? And I think that's where a lot of you see a lot of seasonality just because of your nature, the nature of your service.
Right. Well, and with that said, and I don't mean to interrupt, but when we are having an auction, we pray for rain because people don't have nothing better to do but to come spend money. And everybody says, why are you hoping for rain? Or why some of our best auctions have been in a snowstorm here in Ohio with 12 inches of snow on the ground. Well, they're bored. They're like, well, okay, I got cabin fever. I got to go do something. We sold a real estate last year. The guy was just bored, and he showed up, never looked at the property or anything, and stood there, bought it. And he told me when we got these, I didn't think I was going to buy real estate today, and hadn't had financing of it straightened out, nothing. But he thought it was cheap. He thought it was a good investment, and he bought it. So
tell the truth, he was snow day drinking, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, that is Ohio probably top one of those lists. So,
Chad, I was just going to add to something that Chad said is that it kind of befuddled us the first couple of years why fewer people die in December and more in January, and we believe that that's not the case. It just has to do with the courthouses being less efficient over the holidays, so they don't get as many probates recorded, but then they get caught up in January. So, people die pretty consistently all throughout the year.
And we slow down, start end of June. I mean, right when 4th of July hits, it's almost like we're dead till probably, late September. And then we pick up for another couple months. And I've always said, well, a lot of this has to do with how fast attorneys work.
Sure.
So I didn't know you guys had numbers on that. I'm just going off of what we've done in the past, and I'm thinking, okay, this is odd, but we kind of try to keep track of that. So one thing I do have a question now that, we've talked a little bit. I used the form letter you guys had recommended. I changed a few things to pertain to my business. We don't always show up and say, okay, you need to have an auction. We look at the situation from, every situation is different. Sometimes it requires a listing, and we're very open-minded to that. So we try not to narrow ourselves. But then after I sent that mailing, didn't get as much response from the form lender as then after they made the calls, I went ahead and had you guys design a flyer. It was just bullet points and, you know, catchy looking flyer, and it seemed like we got more phone calls on that. Now, a lot of it was, hey, take me off your list, but at least we were getting, you know, people calling back. And so I didn't know if you guys were had any numbers on, you know, is the letter working better or is the flyer working better? Or could it be just my area?
It could be your area, it could be the month, it could be the weather. It's incredibly hard.
Okay.
It's incredibly hard to track direct mail. I mean, unless we're working in your office, it's hard for us to get, you know, it's hard for our customers to report back to us in an accurate way because, you know, unless you put codes on your mail, like a specific discount code or, you know, an ID code of some sort, it's hard to tell what worked and what didn't. It's hard to get it back to us. So if you feel like it did, I mean, just keep doing what you feel like is working best. I mean, you're going to know it better than we are.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add to that is that it like Chad said, it kind of depends on the market. We sort of know that it's working well when, you know, we get repeat orders for people who are adding flyers or doing flyers, and that, you know, is becoming, we're probably printing 3 times the number of flyers we printed 2 months ago we're printing now. So we know that obviously it's working, people are happy with them, and they love the quality, and it's just good stuff. I mean, the more information you're putting out there, more chances you know, can catch fish if you put more bait in the water.
Right. And I think I'm just a little too early in the program to, you know, judge any of that. It just, you know, you get a gut feeling sometimes, and that's kind of where I was like, oh, I seem to get a lot more response out of the color flyer than I did from the form letter. And, you know, you just don't know if people are going to sit there and read that or if they're just going to look at it and say, oh, I remember this guy. Or maybe like I said, it was the 90-day period, and I'd send out that letter and that flyer, and it was just like, oh, okay, now I remember him again. So getting my name out there more. So, all right, guys. Well, that's all I had, and I appreciate your help. And you know, I gave it my 90 days. Sounds like I'm going to go for another 90 days.
Congratulations. Make it another 9 years until you retire.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lucky. I was hoping we'd have a clear-cut winner. We really had great participation, guys, as always. Thank you. I mean, we had Kevin with probably be over $1 million deal. We had soccer that's been long-term doing business for 3 years now, and we've got Lucky who stuck with it and finally put his first deal together. I think I have an idea what we're going to do, but the 4 partners will talk about this, and we will announce the winner or winners at the beginning of our next call. I just wanted to finish this call. I think this is one of our best ever, and we're finishing exactly at an hour, so we're right on time. But the quality, and I so much appreciate all of you that took the time to be here today. We thank you, especially for those that participated. I know all these stories inspired a lot of the people that are just getting started. And I want to challenge you the same way I end every one of these calls. Take one of those stories that you heard today, one thing, one idea that inspired you. Go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday, and you can be the winner of the week. Share your success with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we'll talk to you the same time next Thursday.